if you're looking for a character, there's only one character in the whole Sonic franchise that is unanimously agreed upon to have probably too much character. And that is Edgy the Hedgie himself. Your boy, Shadow. Shadow's story begins 50 years before the events of Sonic Adventure 2, where Professor Gerald Robotnik, Eggman's grandfather, was working on creating the ultimate life form that was meant to be a protector of the Earth. After going through a number of prototypes, he finally landed on the creation of Shadow. In order to do so, he had to use the blood of the Black Arms leader, Black Doom. Once Shadow was created, he immediately befriended Maria, Robotnik's granddaughter, and they became very close during their time together on the Ark. Unfortunately, Gerald's research on the Ark was halted when Gunn got word that they had partnered with the Black Arms to create Shadow, because the implications of him partnering with an alien race terrified them, forcing the United Federations to shut down the Project Shadow and end all of Dr. Robotnik's research that he was doing for mankind's protection up on the Ark. Gunn launched an invasion and put a stop to the work being done, and also caused a ton of chaos and confusion to all of those on the mission. Many scientists during this raid were ultimately killed during the invasion. Maria and Shadow ran towards an escape pod where Maria convinced Shadow to board, and her final wish to him before releasing said pod was for him to make it down to the planet Earth and live a happy life. Shadow could do nothing more but watch in horror as the gun soldiers entered the lab and one of them fired a shot directly at Maria. A shot which would be felt by Shadow for years to come. Learning of Maria's death caused Gerald to go mad. He swore vengeance on humanity for taking away the only thing that ever meant anything to him. Gunn eventually got both Shadow's pod and Gerald into custody, however. Shadow's pod was placed in Gunn's military bunker on Prison Island, and Gerald was incarcerated and charged with all of the crimes that happened aboard the Ark. Gerald was then sentenced to death by a firing squad. But before everything officially went down, Gerald's final act against humanity for the atrocities they committed against him and his family was to manipulate Shadow's memory and convince him that his duty was to seek out vengeance against humanity. With all of that context front and center, we can begin our prologue of Sonic Adventure 2, which is the opening stage of the Dark Story containing Dr. Eggman. He's broken into military base to find out what his grandfather was working on, seemingly a top secret military weapon that led to the military shutting down the research because they feared it. Yeah, he's looking for Shadow and he doesn't even know it. Eggman makes it to the massive doors in front of him, protecting the core of the military base. Beyond those doors is a computer, seemingly his grandfather's research computer, because the password to get into the database of this computer is Maria. But the password isn't enough. He also has to place a Chaos Emerald into the console to give it enough power to release what it's looking for. When he does so, a pod ascends from beneath and out comes Shadow, who Eggman momentarily mistakes for Sonic, assuming he's here to ruin his plans, but quickly realizes it's not him. Shadow introduces himself to Eggman and refers to Eggman as his master, granting him a single wish as a token of gratitude for his release. I love how confused Eggman looks during all of this. I'm imagining he broke into a giant base, is looking to find the super top secret apocalyptic weapon his grandfather has been working on, only to find yet another dang hedgehog come out. At this point, I'm convinced Eggman sees hedgehogs in his sleep. Shadow, in order to prove his strength to Eggman, suddenly teleports and we find himself facing off against our first boss battle. A mech robot that flies around and fires missiles. This display convinces Eggman because the military robot Shadow just defeated is pretty powerful. So Eggman gets it now. Shadow is the military's top secret weapon, and now he's drooling at the thought of getting a wish. Shadow demands Eggman to bring him more Chaos Emeralds and notifies him that he'll be waiting for Eggman on the control room aboard the Space Colony Ark. And before Eggman can get any context, Shadow is out of there.
With the Chaos Emerald in the Space Colony Ark. I've got to find out just what's going on up there.
We interrupt this broadcast for an important news flash. There has been a break-in at the Federal Reserve Bank today. Mysteriously, the only thing that was stolen was the Chaos Emerald. According to eyewitnesses at the scene, the suspect was identified as the world-renowned hero, Sonic the Hedgehog. The suspect was seen fleeing the scene, destroying the reserve's guard robots in his path. Stay tuned for
Sounds
more
more like
details.
the work of Shadow.
It looks like everyone's confusing Shadow for Sonic. Shadow's going through his own confusion here, as the police sirens trigger his memory of the Ark invasion and running off with Maria before she released him down into the world. This memory is all pretty accurate to what actually occurred. The only problem is his memory cuts off at the end where he assumes that what Maria wanted to give all of the people in the world was revenge. When they say Shadow's memory was manipulated, that revenge line is specifically the part that was manipulated. Gerald has Shadow convinced that Maria's final wish was for him to exact revenge against the humans for what they had done. The interesting thing though is that even if Gerald Robotnik didn't manipulate Shadow's memory, I think he would be driven to revenge against humanity regardless. It's not really a detail in the story, but since they don't really go into detail about how Gerald manipulates Shadow's memories, like they don't specify Gerald can just drag and drop a memory file into Shadow's brain. When I was younger, I figured it was more of an adjustment where the only thing that Shadow could keep thinking about over and over again was the very thing that he was likely to never forget anyway. Rather than try and help him forget this traumatic experience, Gerald found a way to manipulate Shadow into doing nothing but think about how they killed Maria. At that point, Shadow's psyche alone could do the rest of the work, and convince him that the revenge he wanted was also what Maria wanted. This always made sense to me, because why else would Shadow suddenly flip a switch later in the game when he remembers that Maria wanted him to save humanity? Like, even if he did remember that, it'd be silly to assume that he'd just get over all of it. If anything, it'd probably anger him even more at the thought that Gun killed such an innocent girl. So the Gun military has been going after Sonic, mistaking him for Shadow. Shadow catches up to Sonic, who has just defeated one of those same robots that Shadow defeated earlier in the base. If you recall, Shadow's performance against that robot is what convinced Eggman of Shadow's power, and now we find Shadow looking down on Sonic, catching his breath after just completing the same task. The difference is, Sonic is seemingly out of breath, where Shadow was pretty calm about it during his victory. This scene is basically the equivalent of the famous Saiyan face-off between Goku and Vegeta. It's their first time meeting face to face. Both of them are staring the other down, with Shadow, a character that has clearly taken inspiration from Vegeta, looking down towards Sonic, a character that has clearly taken inspiration from Goku. What happens next is the ultimate flex, if there was ever an ultimate flex. It's such an old scene, but the absurdity of the moment still gives me goosebumps. Sonic, the Sonic, just said, "Wow, he's fast." Now, shortly after that, Sonic mentions that it was the Chaos Emerald's power, but A, we've seen Sonic use a Chaos Emerald before, and he wasn't able to teleport that quickly. And B, Shadow straight up declares that he's the ultimate life form, implying that he'll outdo Sonic regardless of the circumstances. And then he warps right out of there, leaving Sonic to be surrounded by the military with the assumption that he was the one that just conducted all of the destruction around Radical Highway. This whole scene is such an amazing first interaction between these two characters. In a brief little back and forth, you immediately understand so much about Shadow as a character, and for the first time in a 3D game, you think someone is actually able to step up to Sonic. Keep in mind, if you're playing this game with a hero story, this is your first introduction to Shadow the Hedgehog. And what an everlasting impression did he leave on the series with this introduction.
I've been waiting for you, Doctor. Now, I will show the glorious achievement of what the world's leading scientist, Professor Gerald, has created. The Ark was the first space colony created by mankind. Not many people know that the Ark contained a top-secret research facility, where weapons of mass destruction were being created. This is one of them, a weapon capable of destroying an entire planet, codenamed the Eclipse Cannon.
Destroying an entire planet? Was this my grandfather's legacy?
But it's been deactivated for some time now. To reactivate it, large amounts of energy are necessary.
Oh, so that's why we needed the Chaos Emerald.
Exactly. To reactivate the machine, we need the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Once you have that, then you have the ultimate power of destruction to use as you please. And then, the world could be yours.
Sounds like a plan. I like the way you think, Shadow. I will get the Chaos Emeralds, use the machine to dominate the world, and build a legacy of my own.
So in addition to the Ultimate Life Form and all the stuff Gerald was working on for the betterment of humanity, the Eclipse Cannon was a WMD Gerald worked on. But after Gerald discovered Maria was killed, his plan was to use the Eclipse Cannon to destroy the Earth. Shadow, however, is here to tell Eggman that the Eclipse Cannon could be his to do with what he pleases. And the thought of Eggman holding a gun to the Earth's head, effectively putting him in charge of the world, is all too pleasing for the Mad Doctor.
It'll be that easy. I've got a great idea. How about making a deal?
Deal?
When you grabbed that huge emerald, you said something about a reaction. A reaction that it may have with the Master Emerald. Now, if you could just let me borrow that radar, I may be able to help you. What do you think?
If I do, what's in it for me?
I have an idea where the other Chaos Emeralds may be. I may not look like it, but do you know that I am a treasure hunter that specializes in all kinds of jewels?
Very well.
Okay then, it's a deal. I don't think we've been introduced. I'm Rouge the Bat, but you can call me Rouge.
Just because Shadow gives Eggman the nod of approval, doesn't mean that he's all in on trusting Rouge. I don't think either of them trust her yet. It seems more like a nod to let her join so they can utilize her in the meantime, while they figure out exactly what her deal is. I love that everyone in this trio is being manipulative. Eggman thinks he's going to rule over the world and seemingly is going along with whatever Rouge is doing just so he can utilize her to achieve his goal. Shadow is clearly using Eggman for something bigger in order to exact his revenge on humanity, and Rouge is tiptoeing around pretending she's just a treasure hunter while clearly reporting this information to someone else. There's such a fun dynamic between these three, and it's largely why the dark story in this game is way more appealing than the hero story in my opinion. For now, the trio will make their way back to Prison Island, the same Prison Island that was used to hold Shadow and Gerald many years ago. They're on Prison Island because Rouge has intel indicating there's a Chaos Emerald on the island. I love that Eggman is super paranoid about being back at Prison Island, by the way. This is definitely not a location you want to break into if you have the option to avoid it. Eggman then takes the lead and gives the three his plan.
You to sneak in the base without being detected. Then, Shadow will enter the armory, where he will set the timer on these dynamite packs. Once that is in place, we will blow up the whole island and get away before anyone has a chance to know what hit them. Meanwhile, you'll have to sneak into the cargo area and grab the Chaos Emerald. That's a challenge for such a worthy treasure hunter as yourself, isn't it, Duck Girl? We only have 30 minutes to pull this mission off, and we only get one try, so don't fail me.
And they're off. Eggman plays through Weapons Bed, and I absolutely love the amount of destruction he commits in this stage. After you complete the stage, Eggman notes that the first part of their 3-step plan is done, and before they can start the next part, we get the origin of a gag that occurs throughout the series. Amy foolishly mistaking a hedgehog for Sonic. Eggman tells Rouge and Shadow to continue along and leave Amy to him. While this is happening, Tails is flying around Prison Island because Sonic was caught by the military and was brought here into custody for the assumption that he's been committing the crimes that Shadow's been doing, like stealing a Chaos Emerald and attacking gun soldiers and all around wreaking havoc and causing destruction. Rouge will have a boss battle similar to the one Shadow and Sonic already went through, only this time it's slightly easier because she can hover into the cockpit, rather than have to wait for it to get closer so she can homing attack. The downside is that the prison has been locked down, so Rouge sends a distress call to Shadow implying that she's trapped and that she's going to explode along with the Chaos Emeralds. Shadow hears the distress call and starts to once again have a flashback of Maria dying. This clearly triggers something inside him and causes him to get serious to go and save Rouge. Of course, he'd be doing this anyway, because he wants the Chaos Emeralds. But I think his little flashback and close-up on his face is proof that this is not just an evil hedgehog. This is someone with a deeper meaning to him than what's been laid out to us so far. Shadow now has 10 stressful minutes to make it through White Jungle and save Rouge's life. And just as Shadow makes his way towards his destination, we bump into Sonic, and the two cross paths once again.
Found you, faker!
Faker? I think you're the fake hedgehog around here. You're comparing yourself to me? Ha! You're not even good enough
I'll make
to be
you eat
my...
those words!
It's so unfortunate that these character battles aren't any good because they downplay the intensity of the moment. Anyway, after Sonic and Shadow square off, our hedgehogs are trying to catch their breaths, and Eggman warns Shadow that the island is going to blow up. So Shadow quickly jumps into the hold where Rouge stands with the emeralds, and with seconds remaining before the bomb goes off, performs a chaos control.
Shadow, what do you think it's like on Earth?
The professor said his life's work was dedicated to all of those who live down there. He once told that the reason for his existence was making people happy through the power of science.
Shadow.
Maria, I just don't know anything anymore. I often wonder why I was created, what my purpose is for being here. Maybe if I go down there, I will find the answers. Maybe. Maria.
After that memory, we cut straight to Shadow standing next to that very same window and staring down at the earth. Rouge, ever so Rouge-like, starts to give Shadow a bit of tongue-in-cheek banter about how he's such a nice dude because he came to save her. He clarifies that he had strictly did it for the emeralds, and she laughs that off and claims it's not the whole story. Their nice little moment ends with Eggman barging in impatiently and claiming that it's time to move forward. Even if they only have 6 out of the 7 Chaos Emeralds, Shadow's on board too because 6 emeralds is enough for a demonstration of the Eclipse Cannon. And with that, all screens around the world are hacked by Eggman, and he delivers this presentation.
Eggman, the world's greatest scientist, and soon to be the world's greatest ruler. Now witness the beginning of the greatest...
Yeah, so Eggman blew up half the moon. I think at the time of the release of this game, this was the most absurd thing that had ever occurred in a Sonic series.
Look! Half of the moon is gone?
Eggman! Oh, that creep never gives up.
But how did he manage to harness all that energy?
It's got to be the Chaos Emeralds. Yeah, that's the reason they were looking for him. Tails?
The Chaos Emeralds are like magnets. They have the power to attract each other. I can use that to find where Eggman is.
Freeze! Put your hands up in the air and get off the ground!
I'll take care of the police while you try and find a way out of here. Find Eggman!
Got it!
The 3 of you? That means me too! Hey, wait!
Meanwhile, Tails and Amy are not getting any signal from the emeralds and rightfully assuming that that means that Eggman took one of them to outer space. And with plot-driven comedic timing, Knuckles pops up from the sewer just below them, because apparently, Aquatic Mine was in that sewer.
Looking for the Master Emerald pieces was tougher than I thought it would be. Where are we anyway?
Hey, where are you going?
Move aside, Knuckles!
I managed to find the transcripts between Eggman and the President in the government computer. I'm following the President's limo right now. If we get into the limo, we can trace the call to find Eggman.
Okay, let's meet up there.
Hey! Wait for me, Tails!
So now we're chasing down the President's limo so that we can use it to locate the President. Anyway, inside the limo, Eggman is threatening the President with the power of the Eclipse Cannon and expecting him to relinquish control of the entire world to him. But before he could finish his threat, Sonic and Tails jump in and figure out he's in the Space Colony Ark, and jump right back out of the President's limo. They now know where to go in order to find Eggman. Meanwhile, Eggman is up on the Ark just throwing a hissy fit in such a proper Eggman way. It's actually really funny and sort of endearing to see this mini tantrum. Rouge comes in wondering what the deal is, so they fill her in that the threats fell on deaf ears. The team determines they're going to need the 7th Chaos Emerald to allow the cannon to go into full power so that it's going to be strong enough to attack and destroy the Earth. Well, actually, it's Shadow cunningly playing on Eggman's frustration saying they need the 7th Chaos Emerald. Eggman wants to rule an empire, not destroy the Earth. But he's also always been a bit of a psychopath. and not exactly a level-headed thinker, so he's probably not really realizing that by gathering the 7th Chaos Emerald and having enough strength to destroy the Earth, it won't really be in his best interest. I'm guessing he wants to just be able to say he has the power to destroy the Earth. Either way, Eggman tells Rouge she needs to hold her end of the bargain and collect the last emerald. Instead, she brings him a newspaper, which indicates that Tails received an emerald back in SA1 when he saved the station square from a missile. Eggman orders they go back to Earth and get the final emerald and storms off. And as Shadow follows, he utters the words, "Soon enough, Maria," highlighting that he thinks he's getting closer and closer towards his revenge against humanity. When they leave the room, Rouge reports over the radio again, this time explaining that she's unable to confirm if Shadow is the Shadow and the ultimate life form from Project Shadow. And as she signs off, we get to do her kart racer stage, Route 280, a slightly more difficult version of Tails' track, and in her mission she's trying to catch up to Tails. She finds him and reports to Shadow, who sees him flying ahead as he stands at the peak of a giant canyon, a rail canyon to be exact. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to rail grinding. As you finish the stage, Shadow reports to Eggman that Tails is getting away and is heading directly towards Eggman's base. Eggman informs him that he has Tails on his radar, so he can just sit tight for now. Anyway, I think it's hilarious that as the team surrounds what they believe to be the center of the base, Sonic makes a comment that he's sure that Eggman has a spaceship hidden somewhere. Because, of course Eggman would have a spaceship lying around somewhere. He's freaking Eggman. And I love that it's just like an oh yeah moment for Sonic. Tails remarks that the door is locked and Sonic ever so lovingly encourages Knuckles to look for keys because he's the world's greatest treasure hunter. The team enters the locked door and finds Eggman waiting for them, who then summons the Egg Golem as he threatens to take out our heroes' lives as well as the Chaos Emerald. When Sonic defeats the Egg Golem, he destroys the restraint on it and runs off, leaving Eggman to fight the Egg Golem by himself. After the Egg Golem fight, the heroes take off into outer space and make it towards the Ark, but due to the inexperience of piloting of the spaceship, they end up swinging open some doors in the cargo bay and dropping pieces of the Master Emerald in space, which prompts Knuckles to panic and freak out and force them to crash land in somewhat of a hilarious sequence. Luckily, the team landed inside the Ark, and Knuckles slipped away to search for the Emerald Shards. Tails proceeds to fill Amy and Sonic in on the details of the Ark and why it's abandoned, followed by devising a plan for them to use a fake Chaos Emerald he created to place into the core of the Ark to destroy the Eclipse cannon. Anyway, as Tails devises the plans for the trio, Rouge is getting a call from Eggman notifying her that they got away from him. She tells the Doctor she'll go after them herself and asks for the password to control the Space Colony Ark, which Eggman reveals to her, and she takes the password and immediately begins to do research on his computer, basking in the fact that she feels like she tricked the old Doctor into giving her his password, Maria. As she researches Project Shadow, she notices something that piques her curiosity, but is quickly interrupted by a warning going off and the monitor pulls up a live camera of Sonic, Tails, and Amy aboard the Ark. So naturally, Rouge takes this as a chance to get out and collect the emeralds since they're unguarded. While Rouge is looking for the gems, Tails is running through the Space Colony Ark stage, finding a bunch of fake Chaos replicas that Gerald had made in an attempt to design the ultimate life form. And just as Tails is radioing into Sonic that they placed the emerald in the cannon's computer, they're interrupted by Eggman over the radio, indicating that he's holding Amy hostage. Knuckles and Rouge face off in another character battle that kind of sucks. The cutscene that follows is enjoyable though.
And give me back my emerald!
What are you battling about? You call yourself a hunter, attacking a lady? Shame on you!
What kind of lady goes around stealing gems anyway?
Those belong to me!
What in the world?
Before I move on, I want to appreciate what this story is offering and why it's so memorable for a lot of us. Like, Shadow is the obvious storyline here that appealed to us, but Rouge was also a new character, and her dynamic with Knuckles was almost equally as enticing as Shadow and Sonic. At the end of the game, I remember thinking there was no way Knuckles and Rouge would not become a duo. And not in the creepy way so many people ship them or whatever. I just mean we had this evil bat randomly show up and go from a gem-stealing enemy to someone that handed all of the shards directly back to Knuckles because he was such a good dude and saved her life. She probably would have fluttered her wings before falling to her death anyway, but that's irrelevant. Knuckles saw her falling and quickly saved her, instinctively, and it did not go unnoticed. Not by her, nor the rest of us. I love this game.
Finally!
What?
I'm sorry if I hurt you.
We should get going.
We backtrack a bit to Eggman spying into the trio before they split off and search for the generator Tails destroyed and notice that he was watching them all along. His radar picked up signals from 2 different emeralds. The brilliant doctor immediately figures out they had a fake emerald, and I love the way the scene ends.
I'm the one who should be telling them the end is near, not you. Now is the time to end this long drawn-out battle. Place in history as the ultimate genius. If something happens to me, I'm counting on you to finish the job. Hurry! The moment for attack has come. It's now or never!
Also, I love how Eggman is telling Shadow he's counting on him to finish the job. He knows he's going off and might not make it out alive. And if he goes down, he wants everyone to go down as well.
Darn, why do they always leave a sweet little innocent girl like me alone?
Well, well, young lady. Is there something I can help you with?
Mr. Eggman!
If you value your life, you will tell me where Sonic and Tails are.
Yeah, Shadow the Hedgehog 2005 was so edgy for having guns. The funniest thing about the scene is Eggman isn't even simply aiming a gun at Amy. He's straight up doing a gangster hold while aiming at her. It's hilarious, but it's so out of place, I love it. Meanwhile, Sonic is running through the Ark and trying to make it to Amy to save her. In any case, after the stage, we get this cutscene which I always thought was pretty epic. There's just a lot going on. Amy has a gun to her head, Tails awaits Sonic while knowing that he's bringing a fake Chaos Emerald. Sonic walks in through the door with a serious look on his face. This isn't typical happy-go-lucky behavior. He walks into Amy literally having a gun to her head. A deal is made to trade the emerald for Amy. Sonic and Tails are fully convinced that they have control over the situation with the fake emerald in their midst. But Eggman already knows they have a fake emerald, because he saw 2 different signals, or at least he's pretty confident about it, so he needs to confirm. I love how Sonic has such a confident smirk on his face because he's convinced that he's outsmarting the evil doctor, even pumping up his ego, telling him he's turned into a big-time villain. Eggman immediately encapsulates Sonic.
Thought you could trick me with that fake emerald, didn't you?
So, how did you know it wasn't the real one?
Tails!
Because you just told me, Fox Boy. Now, for a little space ride. The capsule clears the colony bad.
I'm counting on you, Tails. And Amy, take care of yourself.
Farewell, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic!
It has the same wavelength and properties, but is less powerful than the real one.
The same wavelength and properties. But can I do this?
Farewell, Sonic, my admirable adversary. Now we have some unfinished business to take care of.
What a powerful scene. Eggman, Tails, and Amy legit think that Sonic is done for. Eggman doesn't celebrate, he just wants to get straight to business and continue the mission. Amy is devastated, and Tails is ready to rock and roll and save the world.
I guess he was just a regular hedgehog after all.
Shadow, now convinced Sonic was no longer anything special, walks in and finds Rouge about to collect the Chaos Emeralds. He is now confident in his assessment that she must be the government spy, Rouge the Bat. I really like Rouge's reply, noting that he's clearly done his homework and it's an invasion of her privacy. Such a fitting reply for a confident spy. Actually, I'm just gonna let this scene play out because I always enjoyed it.
This is Dr. Eggman. I have found all 7 Chaos Emeralds. Shit! Someone's trying to get my Eclipse cannon. There's not much time left before the cannon fires again. Can you get over there?
If you want to live, leave the Chaos Emeralds where they are. The fake emerald is good enough for you.
Do you actually believe that you're the real Shadow?
No
Even
doubt.
your memories might not be real, you know?
Even if my memories are not real, it's still me, Shadow. And I will fulfill my promise to Maria. That's the only thing that matters to me now.
Perhaps my favorite thing about all of this is that Shadow just straight up leaves Rouge. I mean, sure, he threatens her to not touch the emeralds, but he could have easily defeated her right there and then. More and more signs of him being a good hedgehog leak out throughout this game, and the main mission is still clouding his judgment. And she's also actually concerned about him, almost like she wants to help him and guide him the right way. Like the two just found out they were enemies, and even then the way it all goes down, it's still in a friendly manner. Shadow might be the most impactful character added to the series since its conception, but Rouge was the most impactful character to Shadow. And as their confrontation ends, another one begins. Sonic used a Chaos Control. Not just any Chaos Control, a Chaos Control with a fake emerald. In one instance, we learned that not only is Sonic able to use Chaos Control, highlighting how powerful of a hedgehog he is, and how he can adapt and learn quickly while watching Shadow perform the same maneuver, but we also confirm how much of a genius Tails is, that the fake emerald was able to take on that power. And what I love most is the sense of urgency Sonic has, despite the fact that he just escaped death. He's going back to save Tails and Amy. He's going to throw the emerald into the heart of the Eclipse Cannon. So we now have two hedgehogs racing to the Eclipse Cannon.
I'll slam dunk it in there!
And what can I say about these stages? They are both an excellent ending to their respective stories. You're out there in space with all of these pieces of the arc with the same sense of urgency developed from the plot and musical combined. Sonic, the hero, and Shadow, the villain. Well, for now anyway. Both in a race against time, one to end the world and one to save it. With determination, they rail grind and platform and rocket their way through space. The aesthetics of the stage is so memorable that often one of the few things that the general masses praise about the Shadow game is the inclusion of the set pieces from this stage in a few levels in that game. This arc is so iconic to 3D Sonic series that I'm genuinely surprised that the aesthetic isn't revisited more often. Anyway, as Sonic and Shadow approach the cannon, they make it to the final stretch. A long stretch of a platform. No enemies, no obstacles. Basically an endless runway breaking down behind them. They can now square off with the ultimate test of their skill. Speed.
You actually saved me, you know.
It was a Chaos Emerald, wasn't it? But there's no way you could have activated the Chaos Control using an emerald that's fake. So, there's more to you than just looking like me. What are you, anyway?
What you see is what you get. Just a guy that loves adventure. I'm Sonic the Hedgehog.
I see, but you know, I can't let you live. Your adventuring days are coming to an end.
What can I say? It's such a cool premise. The acknowledgement between the two of them, the respect, the intricate nature that this is it. It's one or the other. A race to determine the fate of the world.
Sonic, I did it!
Awesome job, Tails!
Sonic!
This completes my plan to take over the world. Opens the glorious era of the Empire of Eggman.
Sonic!
Look outside!
So now we have our last story segment, and Eggman's learned the cannon failed, but its activation triggered a clip of his grandfather Gerald speaking. We're about to get our context.
What's happening here? It's Robotnik!
What's that vibration?
Hey, wait! Someone is coming!
You haven't given up yet?
It's all over for us.
What do you
I
mean?
just received a message from my boss. This space colony ark is currently approaching the Earth at an incredible velocity. It probably will impact Earth.
What's that on the screen?
This is a death sentence for every human being on Earth. If my calculations are correct, the space colony ark will impact the Earth in 27 minutes and 53 seconds. All of you will be destroyed, along with your beloved planet Earth.
I plan to give you a taste of my revenge once all the 7 Chaos Emeralds are collected. Once I initiate this program, it cannot be disabled. All of you ungrateful humans who took everything away from me will feel my loss and despair.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
Ready!
What's going on here? Who is that?
I plan to give you a taste of my revenge.
The vibration's getting
once all
worse.
this- Professor Gerald Robotnik, one of the greatest scientific minds in the world, and my grandfather.
What? I knew you were behind all this. Stop it right now, or else...
I'd have done this a long time ago if I had the chance.
What do you mean?
You're pretty persistent for a hedgehog, aren't you? You're still alive.
Just letting Knuckles pilot the shuttle on the way over here was more dangerous than you could ever be.
What is this?
This is my grandfather's diary.
I don't quite know what happened or what went wrong. Was it a mistake to create the ultimate life form? I thought it would be something that would benefit mankind, but then the military guards landed on the colony that day. They were sent to destroy the research project that I had been working on. My colleagues at the research facility, my granddaughter, Maria, I hope you are all safe. The colony was completely shut down, probably to keep the prototype from falling into the wrong hands.
The ark was shut down under the premise that there had been an accident. I found Maria's name among those who died when the ark was shut down. She meant everything to me, and I couldn't bear the thought that she died because of my research. I lost everything. I had nothing more to live for. I went insane. All I could think about was to avenge her. Somehow, some way. I got scared as I no longer was able to control my thoughts. All I could think about was that I wanted it all to be. Based on my original projections, I was able to complete my project, Shadow. I designed its mind to be perfect. Pure. I will leave everything to him. If you wish, release and awaken it
If
to
you
the
wish
world.
to fill the world with destruction... Oh, so that's why you released Shadow from the base.
The core of the Eclipse cannon is now highly reactive and explosive. This is because the Chaos Emerald is overpowered. If the colony collides with Earth, it will shatter into pieces like my grandfather predicted. That mad scientist!
That should be you, right? We have to stop the space colony now!
The space colony arc is position may have shifted due to the amount of energy given off by the emeralds. We have to stop the energy.
But how?
That's it. There is a way to stop the energy. We have to use your emerald. You're the one that told me that the Master Emerald has the power to stop the Chaos Emerald.
That's right. If I use this, I just might be able to stop the Chaos Emerald.
The reaction of the Chaos Emerald is moving toward the candy core. It may be too late.
There still may be some time left. If we pull together, we might be able to get to the shortcut that leads to the core.
No worries. Just leave it to me. I'm the world's fastest hedgehog.
Then, let...
You get all that? Okay, good. It shouldn't be anything new since we discussed it from the beginning. Together, the whole cast manages to get through all of the security gates and make it to the core of the Ark. Well, almost the whole cast.
Look, it's Shadow. I really gotta stop whining. Everyone's trying their best to help out, and so must I. Shadow, we need you. Please help us.
It's all going according to plan. There's no reason for me to help them. Besides, there's no way to save anyone.
There has to be. I know that people fight over the most trivial things. Some people may be selfish, like the professor said. But they're basically good if they try their best and never give up on their wishes. They always have a reason to be happy. That's why you should help them out. Saving them is a good thing. Shadow, I beg you, please do it for them. Give them a chance.
I beg of you, please, do it for me.
Maria!
For all people who live on that planet, give them a chance to be happy. Let them live for their dreams. Shadow, I know you can do it. That's the reason why you were brought into this world. Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog.
I promised her, and I must keep that promise. That's what Maria wished for. I've got to go now. I have to keep my promise to Maria and you.
Shadow starts to think clearly again. After a whole game of struggling, whenever he felt inclined to do the right thing, he's no longer powered by revenge. I've always interpreted this that his conversation with Amy triggered something in him to realize that yes, Maria is not around anymore, but there are other people just like Maria. He just wasn't aware of it because all he ever really had was Maria. You can see it as he developed a fondness for Rouge, and even now with Amy, triggering a feeling in him that he hasn't felt in 50-odd years. His conversation with Amy helped remove so much of the doubt and anger that was cemented in his heart. And look, the reality is, Amy is just such an amazingly sweet character that she can bring anyone on board. Some characters are good for a fight, others are good to find the deep-rooted good in people. And they're all heroes.
What's that? It looks just like the shrine of the Master Emerald.
They probably designed the core like the shrine to harness the power of the Chaos Emeralds.
All of you ungrateful humans who took everything away from me will feel
Knuckles, here it
loss and despair. All of you ungrateful humans who took everything away from me will feel loss and despair.
Could this be the prototype of the ultimate life form that was supposed to be encapsulated?
Leave this one to me.
Shadow, what are you doing?
Like I said, they're all heroes. The nice thing is, some of them are heroes with a point to prove. Some of them are not just heroes. Some of them are ultimate life forms. Shadow the Hedgehog's journey over the next few games is to understand who he is. In this moment, prior to losing his memory, he actually figured out who he was. He's the ultimate life form, not a prototype, but he's also a hero and not a villain. That much he's sure of, and he squares off against a bio-lizard and proves to himself and his past and all of us that he's not a faker.
Servers are the 7 Chaos. Chaos is power. Power is enriched by the heart. The controller is the one that unifies the chaos. Only you can do this. Stop the Chaos Emeralds! Is it gone? Is that what Chaos Control is? Since we've stopped the Chaos Emeralds, why is the space colony still on a crash course to Earth?
Prototype still alive! He's controlling the space colony as it's falling to Earth! He's become one with the space colony and is determined to keep it on its collision course!
Sonic?
Oh my god, guys, it's happening. I know a lot of you felt this with SA1, but to me, and so many more people, this is the ultimate transformation. This is the ultimate final fight. This is it. This is the moment. This is the day we heard Live and Learn play during a fight in outer space as 2 super hedgehogs faced off against a giant lizard with a space colony arc shoved up its butt flying towards the Earth. I can't begin to explain this moment to you, and if you've experienced it, especially if you experienced it when you were young, nothing will top it. I don't think I ever felt this amount of hype in my life, and it's a high that was not easily repeated during any other video games I played for the past 2 decades. But just as quickly as I rose up to such an amazing moment, I quickly started to fall. And I fell hard. I don't know about the rest of you, but this moment, this sight, man did it hit me hard as a kid. There are very few things that can have this kind of effect on you in your adolescence, especially when you're playing a game about a happy-go-lucky blue hedgehog notorious for his upbeat attitude. The power of Shadow's fall to the earth shook a fandom and created diehard fans that would obsess over this moment for decades. Diehards that would spend the next 2 decades wanting to find a way to repeat this very moment. Diehards that could never figure out why on earth nobody else could understand why this is one of the greatest endings to any game. Just as we were quickly introduced to this mysterious black hedgehog that quickly made us question if he was better than Sonic, they took him away from us. This was it. The ultimate life form was gone. And with that, was any hope of us ever getting to experience the dynamic of this iconic rival. This iconic hero that was able to square away with our hero. Sayonara, Shadow the Hedgehog. But apparently he wasn't actually dead. Or maybe he's a robot, who knows. Let's go through tons of different what-if scenarios to uncover more and more of the secret of Shadow the Hedgehog.
Very well, let's do this.
Shadow stands out in a field overlooking a city where he gets hit with a newspaper claiming there's a festival in celebration of the 50-year return of the Black Comet. He begins to question his existence, since the only thing he can remember is his name and a gruesome image of him and a girl named Maria running through a hall being chased by soldiers before the memory ends with Maria getting shot by the soldiers. But Shadow doesn't know who he is, who Maria is, or why he can't remember anything. Remember that during Heroes we learned that Shadow has no memory of anything prior to Heroes. Suddenly, a giant red aura surrounds the city ahead and a bunch of aliens descend down onto the planet, while what seems to be their leader confronts Shadow. The leader of these aliens seems to know Shadow and notifies him that the Day of Reckoning will soon be here, so he tells Shadow to find the 7 Chaos Emeralds and bring them to him as promised, which confuses Shadow, and it confuses him enough to the point that he decides he needs to follow him and make his way towards the invaded city and collect the emeralds to figure out who he is. Like I said, in this scene you can tell that Shadow has no recollection of what occurred in SA2 because he has amnesia. So while we all know that deep down he's a hero, he hasn't quite figured it out yet, hence why he's scoffing at the humans. With that, we make our way towards Westopolis and start the neutral route. Luckily, the neutral mission is as simple as reaching the goal ring and should only take you maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Potentially more if this is the first path you take in this game, but still, not much more than that. When you reach the goal ring, you'll have 2 Chaos Emeralds, and the cutscene that follows shows a commander overlooking the world map and making a plan of defense against the black aliens and the destruction of Westopolis, along with the news that there's potentially a black hedgehog reportedly being part of the black aliens. This triggers the gun commander, because if reports are meant to be true, that means Shadow is with the aliens and needs to be defeated. The commander seems to have some sort of vendetta against Shadow, because he gives it no second thought despite the gun soldier assuming Shadow is a good guy. The next cutscene shows Shadow walking with his 2 Chaos Emeralds and an upset Black Doom wondering why Shadow disobeyed his mission orders, questioning if Professor Gerald Robotnik has done more to Shadow's memory than he imagined.
Than I imagined.
The professor?
Strange that you don't remember your maker.
What'd you say?
Silence! The ramifications of your disobedience will be severe.
The cutscene ends and we find ourselves in the next mission on the neutral path, Glyphic Canyon, and a cutscene that shows Shadow regain consciousness, realizing that Black Doom used his powers to completely teleport him. Once again, we're doing the neutral mission here, so our goal is to strictly move along the route and make it to the goal ring, but it's overall a pretty simple stage and should only take you a few minutes for the neutral mission. The next cutscene entails the president standing around in the White House before getting a call that a ton of stuff is going on by the attacks from the black aliens. The president apparently has a picture of Sonic and Shadow on his desk since they're the heroes that have saved him and the world before, and he makes a few comments about the importance of being united to save the world from the invaders. Next, we make it to Prison Island, which is apparently the same prison island from Sonic Adventure 2 that was mostly destroyed. The same prison island that Shadow was captured and placed in and escaped from in Sonic Adventure 2. Shadow actually has a memory flashback and recalls that incident. The stage looks pretty cool in that it looks like it has been through the ringer. There's radioactive waste flowing through it, and a special guest appearance by Charmy. But once again, the neutral mission is just to head through to the end of the stage. Anyway, when you complete the stage, we get a nice high-quality production introduction to Eggman, who is frustrated that there's an alien race destroying everything because, well, I think he views that as his world to dominate, not theirs. So he orders an attack from the Eggman fleet. We then find Shadow standing above a giant flying temple of some sort, and Black Doom telling him he transported the flying fortress to this planet over 2,000 years ago, and it's a killing machine. Shadow then notices Eggman's fleet coming towards them, and Black Doom tells Shadow not to fail him. At this point, it seems like Shadow's just randomly there, because, well, he is. But it's not too crazy to assume that Black Doom got a hold of him and transported him there and offered him a chance to redeem himself. Either way, Eggman expects us to help him. Black Doom expects us to help him. Both of them are getting ignored though since we're on a neutral path of Sky Troops. Reaching the goal ring will take us straight into Iron Jungle, which seems to be Eggman's secret base. Shadow drops down and lands in front of what appears to be multiple copies of himself standing around lifelessly staring at him. Eggman then flies overhead and addresses them as Shadow androids and tells them the black creatures are very strong and he needs to return to formulate a better plan while flying off. This leaves Shadow to question whether or not he's an android before the beginning of the stage. The neutral mission is to once again reach the goal ring. As you play through the stage, Shadow does talk to himself quite a bit and questions what is true and what isn't about his existence, and wonders whether or not Dr. Eggman would have the answer. Once you make it to the end of the stage, Shadow will confront Eggman asking him to tell him the truth, and Eggman straight up tells Shadow that he is indeed an android. But for me, this is not necessarily a contradiction to the story. Rather, it's a lie. Shadow can still totally be a real character even if Eggman tells him otherwise, because you can't trust Eggman to tell the truth in this case. So while Shadow may think that he's nothing more than an android in his story path, it doesn't necessarily mean he is. Once you defeat the Eggbreaker, Shadow will have a sinister laugh and a flashback to himself sitting in the pod of Sonic Heroes, and flashes of memory from him and Sonic when they defeated the Biolizard in SA2. He's realized, or at least thinks he's realized, that the original version of himself died at the end of SA2, and he was created as a copy by Eggman. So now, Shadow sets his sights on defeating Eggman and sending him back to the place he created him from, which, I guess he means hell. So we enter Lava Shelter. Anyway, once you beat the level, Eggman will greet you as Shadow the Android, and you and Omega will square off against his Egg Dealer, a more unique fight against Eggman than the last boss battle. Once you defeat him, the final cutscene plays.
Finally, I've got all the Chaos Emeralds.
I made you, and this is how you repay me?
I am Shadow Android, the ultimate battle lifeform created by Eggman. You may have created me, Doctor, but I will now lead this empire and androids will rule! This is who I am!
Eggman, target acquired. Locked and loaded, fire.
What?
Goodbye, Doctor!
Okay, so obviously Shadow doesn't kill Eggman canonically, so this is clearly a what-if scenario where Shadow finds out, or at least thinks, that he's an android, and along with Omega kills Eggman for creating the two of them as basically his slaves. Now, despite the fact that it should be clear that this was a theoretical ending, there's plenty along this storyline that could still be applied to the full story. We're introduced to Black Doom and we're told that he was here on this planet at least one time 2,000 years ago, if not more than that. And he expects Shadow to help him for some unexplained reason, and he also knows Dr. Gerald Robotnik. We learn that there's a commander out there that holds some kind of animosity towards Shadow and wants to defeat him. And we learn that there's a president that genuinely believes that with the help of Shadow and Sonic, they can hold off this alien invasion. And I think it's a really interesting way to introduce us to this story. It's like the first season of a series that has multiple plot points. And that's not even including a potential plot point that involves Charmy asking you to help him find top secret discs for Vector, despite the fact that there are no cutscenes about it. It's still enough to make you wonder what exactly Charmy is looking for that Vector needs. At this point, I think it's best to head towards the semi-dark path and run through that and analyze that playthrough.
Playtime is over. Time to step it up.
This time, when Shadow makes it to Westopolis, our mission is to defeat all of the gun soldiers in the stage. When you finish, the same cutscene that introduces the gun commander that has an unknown vendetta against Shadow plays, so we can skip over that. But we do get a new cutscene in Westopolis this time that shows Shadow attack some gun soldiers, while a gun soldier over the radio orders them to capture Shadow, dead or alive. Doom then commends Shadow for his actions and realizes Shadow doesn't remember anything. He orders Shadow to go and access the United Federation's mainframe. Shadow accepts and enters the next stage, Digital Circuit, which I guess is some sort of computer that he's been shrunken down into. So in both the semi-dark and pure dark playthroughs, you'll have to destroy the core. Once you destroy the core, we once again see the same cutscene involving the president with the picture of Shadow and Sonic on his desks, so we can skip that. Shadow then arrives in a stage called Cryptic Castle, and he's confused, and he notices Eggman flying by, prompting him to want to reach the Eggman and ask him if he knows anything about the black creatures. When you escape the Cryptic Castle, you head to Eggman to confront him, and before Shadow can even explain to Eggman why he needs the Chaos Emeralds, you're put into a boss battle against the Eggbreaker. Defeat him, grab the Chaos Emerald, and enjoy a high-quality CGI cutscene with Shadow wondering why he can't remember anything and trying to figure out why he knows the black creatures. Before Black Doom scoops him up, brings him to space where he lays eyes upon the space colony Ark 50 years ago. The intent here is for Black Doom to remind Shadow of everything that occurred on the Ark, and we actually get to play through the flashback, which I think is awesome as a concept. And I stress as a concept, because this puts us in the infamous stage known as the Doom. Once you make it to the goal ring, you'll have your next boss fight against a gun unit called Heavy Dog. This prompts Shadow to have a brief memory of Maria getting shot, along with Black Doom reminding him that the humans are heartless, to egg Shadow on to attack. Once you defeat him, we pan over to the White House, where the commander steps in and informs the president that the transport is ready.
I have failed my duty to protect our nation.
Sir, it's not over. We can continue to fight. The Black Aliens may have rendered us unable for now, but we will rally, sir. You must keep your nation strong and together.
Yes, keep the nation united. No matter what happens, we'll never surrender to these creatures. This much I learned from them.
Sir, please hurry!
Okay.
The black creatures will feel their own bloody hell.
What a pathetic sight. Shadow, follow them. Make sure they understand their situation.
We then move on to the next stage, Air Fleet. When you make it to the goal ring, Shadow has 5 Chaos Emeralds and recalls the intro cutscene where Black Doom prompts him to bring him the 7 Chaos Emeralds so that Doom can reveal who he is. Black Doom then summons Shadow to the Black Comet, which is the Black Creature's mothership, essentially to destroy the infestation, which obviously in this case is the Gun Soldiers. So our mission in the Black Comet is to defeat 50 Gun Soldiers. Complete it, and your boss battle is against Sonic and the Diablon, which I guess is piloted by the commander, but I could be wrong.
Shadow, I can't let you go. Not like this.
You're the one who destroyed the Ark and killed everyone on it. It's time to settle this once and for all.
All right. I know what I have to do. I was born to bring order to the humans. These humans, they don't value life. They're going to pay with their lives for what they've done.
You?
Sonic, if you try to stop me, I'll destroy you too.
The final cutscene is wild though.
Finally, I've got all the Chaos Emeralds.
Shadow, why? Why are you siding with them?
I'm Shadow the Hedgehog, the ultimate life form born to protect and serve the Dark Lord, Black Doom. With the power of these Chaos Emeralds, this world will become the Dark Empire. This is who I am.
Now, just like the other ending, this is obviously a what-if ending. It's a theoretical scenario in which Shadow doesn't become a hero because he doesn't have that positive Sonic and Friends influence that keeps him on the straight path. But there's something that I like about this game in that although this is a dark path, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to count out all of the story beats that happen throughout. It's not out of the realm of possibility that Shadow would destroy a gun computer in order to find out about his past from Black Doom, or avoid helping Amy find cream and cheese because he wants to escape Cryptic Castle and find Eggman, or even ignore Maria's wish to heal 10 gun soldiers because there are more pressing matters to worry about, and ignore Tails' plea to destroy the black creatures because he wanted a Chaos Emerald. So while I think it'd be a stretch to assume that him killing all of the gun soldiers in Westopolis and Black Comet are canon, the rest of the missions in this playthrough have story beats that I would classify as consistent to the kind of person, or hedgehog, that Shadow is. And as you play through the game, it becomes pretty easy to tell what should and shouldn't be considered canon, and I think the developers intended for that. It's pretty easy. If Shadow is committing genocide and killing the good guys, then it's probably a what-if scenario.
Are you ready to admit your own foolishness?
Let's swing back to the semi-hero path and run through that one. Play through Westopolis again. It's the same thing, but instead of killing gun soldiers, you kill the black creatures, and it's honestly almost the exact same experience. Watch the gun commander in his control room again, then have this little banter between Sonic and Shadow. I think it's interesting that Black Doom at this point doesn't quite realize that Shadow was not interested in helping him.
We found the 3rd Chaos Emerald in this city. Our mission here is done. Now get going.
Guess that means welcome to the next level. Let's go!
Get back here.
I love how Sonic is just obnoxiously Sonic in this regard, and Shadow basically has enough of his crap. Black Doom's eye came to deliver a message to Shadow because he thinks he's on the side and then leaves. Sonic is upbeat and ready for the next level because he wants to collect the Chaos Emeralds before the bad guys do. And Shadow's simple, "Get back here," actually makes me chuckle. It's so simple and fits in with their dynamic. Anyway, the next stage is Lethal Highway. But luckily, the mission involves basically running through the stage in a linear fashion and shooting up a giant alien tank whenever you get close to it. Finish the mission, and Shadow will demand Doom's Eye to hand over the Chaos Emerald and tell him he has no intention of serving him and the Black Creatures, and he wants to find his own way to find out about his past and who he is. So Black Doom summons the next boss battle, the Black Bull, a big fat alien bat or something. After you defeat the Black Bull, we once again get to skip over the cutscene of the president with the pictures of Shadow and Sonic on his desk, and now we enter Circus Park.
Where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
A Shadow notices Tails flying overhead and his aircraft crashes. Shadow wants to reach the goal ring, get the Chaos Emerald so that he can continue his mission to use them to find out who he is. We'll worry about Tails and the Hero mission on the Pure Hero playthrough. The neutral mission in this case is just to reach the goal ring to grab the Emerald. The next stage is Mad Matrix. We have a cutscene that shows Team Chaotix attempting to hack into Eggman's computer. Remember in the neutral path where Charmy wanted us to help him find 5 top secret discs? Well, if you had helped him do so in Prison Island, this cutscene would immediately follow. A Shadow karate chops a computer, and apparently that's good enough to get us to shrink down and enter the system along with SPO. A Shadow and SPO now confront Eggman, and Shadow asks who he is. Eggman tells him he has no past, implying he's an android yet again. But SPO basically reassures Shadow that he's lying to him, and you once again face off against the Eggbreaker. Eggbreaker is down and out.
What's up, Shadow?
Not you again.
Nice to see you too. Looks like those black creatures are headed out to space. We're on our way to the Ark, so I guess that means we're going too.
Ark.
Come on, let's roll. Next stop, the Ark.
The next page is called Space Gadget. Shadow sees the Ark and starts to have flashbacks over what occurred with Maria, and even his sacrifice with Sonic when they defeated the Bio-Lizard. His memory that he died comes back to him before Sonic interrupts him because they are being approached by flying black creatures. It's an interesting cutscene because Shadow is already starting to wonder why Eggman told him he has no past, and he just remembered that he died. Anyway, this stage is a giant homage to the final stages of SA2 involving the Ark. It's so cool to run through because unlike Prison Island, it actually looks like this is the same setting as the stage from that game, complete with the broken pieces of the stage and all that. Anyway, when you get the Emerald, you board the Ark, and we are finally confronted by the Commander.
It's been a long time, Shadow.
Who are you? And how do you know my name?
I know you, Shadow the Hedgehog. You killed everyone I loved. My family, Maria. I've been waiting all my life for this day.
What? Me? And Maria?
Maria was like a sister to me. She was the only family I knew. And because of you, she was killed. Witnessing it all, the plan to create that horrifying evil creature. That black creature and that insane professor who unleashed it all.
The professor created me with Black Doom.
You don't fool me! It's not just about Maria. Thanks to you, everyone I knew and loved was killed when the Ark was destroyed. Worst of all, my family! Finally, justice is served!
If what you say is true, then I will respectfully accept my fate.
You mean to tell me that you really don't remember a thing?
But I just need some time to uncover the real truth.
And this commander seems to indicate that Shadow was the cause of Maria's death, which is completely new information to Shadow, who again has been suffering from altered and removed memories since his introduction in SA2. And I like how he ends the cutscene. He tells the commander he'll accept his fate and just needs time to figure it all out. And with that, our final stage of Cosmic Fall. You need to find the computer room for Vector for the hero mission. Just a quick point to remember, Charmy had us finding the discs, SPO was with us when we hacked into a computer, and Vector wants us to find a computer room. The three of them are clearly looking for something in the database. Keep that in mind for later. You now confront Black Doom, who tells Shadow that he created him, and he's in essence a part of him, which seems to devastate Shadow. Shadow accepts his crimes and assumes everything the commander says is right and needs to atone for his sins. He starts by facing off against Black Doom, and once you defeat him, Shadow sort of gets suicidal in his thoughts about ending himself.
This isn't over yet. The Black Arms will rise again.
I am Shadow the Hedgehog, a research experiment gone deadly wrong. I've caused so much destruction. I should never have been created. This is who I am.
Hey, don't go there! Yet, things may not be what they seem. You could be.
It's actually a pretty deep moment. I mean, we all know Shadow didn't actually do any of that stuff, but he thinks he does, and you can see it devastates him. Everything about the ending is top-notch in my opinion. Well, everything except for Vector's use of the word yet, but there's actually relevance to his use of that word, regardless of how comical it initially appears to be. Luckily, since this is a hero path, everything along here can be completely believable, so it could all be related to the story. Even Shadow's ending with Black Doom is not necessarily out of the realm of possibility that Shadow had to fight him numerous times in the canon timeline. And in this particular instance, Shadow might think he was once evil and is looking for atonement. Either way, we're nearing the end of the game now, so let's head over and complete the Pure Dark path.
I am the ultimate!
Before you start the stage, there's a new cutscene in the White House which basically just has the president receive a call that they're losing the fight in the city, followed by a pretty dope image of Shadow leading black creatures and receiving some context about him being the ultimate life form from Black Doom, and how the humans wanted to destroy him, and that it was time for his revenge. I'm honestly digging the evil vibes in this Shadow scene. Even if it's nothing more than a what-if scenario, it's still pretty cool. After Central City, Black Doom takes Shadow up to space to the space colony Ark and tells him it's time to get to work on activating the Eclipse Cannon, the same one from SA2 that destroyed the moon. Shadow does have a bit of hesitancy, but he obliges and makes his way towards the Ark to use the 7 Chaos Emeralds and follow orders. We have to destroy the defense units around the Ark, which are the giant flower-looking machines we ignored in the semi-hero path, 4 of them to be exact. After you defeat the 4th one, you have to fight the Blue Falcon, so we'll skip right past that.
Annihilation for this planet is near. It is time to embrace the dawn of your demise and despair.
This is ridiculously evil. The commander gets his president to his aircraft and notifies him that the city was evacuated. But still, they blew up the frickin' city, if not a whole chunk of the earth. They obviously have to say everyone was evacuated because it's still somewhat of a kid's game, but it doesn't mean that the damages were anything less than catastrophic.
To show himself. Attention all command units! Mobilize all mech battle sections! Prepare all weapons to strike incoming vessels! Mobilize Diablon!
But sir, it's not ready yet!
I don't care! We have no other option! We must protect the President and the Chaos Emeralds at all costs!
Yes, sir!
Shadow, damn you! It's been 50 years. Justice will finally be served.
Shadow, I'm counting on you!
I know, Professor. The ultimate life form born to ensure peace and justice amongst all of mankind. Now, I know what I have to do.
I like that in this what-if scenario, we clearly believe that Black Doom and Gerald were evil and created Shadow and are counting on him to enact vengeance on mankind. Gerald from SA2 wanted vengeance on the people of the Earth for what they did to him on the Ark and killing Maria. In many ways, this what-if scenario can easily be in a timeline where the events of SA2 didn't involve Shadow, and rather just started with him in this game. I think that's worth pointing out and is kinda neat. There are 3 gun computers that need to be destroyed. You'll find them along your path as you make your way through the stage. Get that done, and you once again fight Sonic and the Diablon. Basically, it's the same fight as last time.
What are you gonna do with them?
I'm Shadow the Hedgehog. I was created to bring order and justice to the humans. With the power of these emeralds, I'm going to destroy this damn planet. This is who I am!
I actually don't have too much commentary to add here. I think the Pure Dark story is a very believable what-if scenario, but I think we're going to swing over to the other hard story path now, which I would say is easily considered the most believable story path in the game for Shadow, the Pure Hero path.
You have no right to call me a fake!
Once again, we can skip the first few stages in this discussion. In Circus Park, we have to collect 400 rings rather than reach the goal ring. Do that, and we get a cutscene with a commander who has not been notified that Shadow is on the good side yet, since his soldiers are telling him there are reports that he's working with the black creatures. The next stage, Death Ruins, is a cool forest theme where you work with Rouge to eliminate the black aliens. Shadow approaches Doom's Eye and laughs at him because he's struggling with the gun agents and Shadow just killed all of the black aliens. Doom calls the gun soldiers a pitiful bunch, and Shadow is offended from the insult and also surprised at how confident Doom's Eye seems to be because Shadow thought he'd be more devastated by their defeat during the stage. Doom then tells Shadow that the black creatures weren't at the ruins to exterminate the gun soldiers, which confuses Rouge and Shadow because they thought they just won the battle. Doom's Eye then tells Shadow all will be revealed tomorrow, which further confuses Shadow because he realizes he has no idea what Black Doom is capable of. And then, in a seemingly tongue-in-cheek manner, Black Doom tells Shadow he needs to rest before tomorrow when everything is revealed, and leaves him behind to fight the Black Bull, which prompts Shadow to call him scum. Fight the Black Bull again. When you defeat Black Bull, we once again experience the cutscene where Sonic tells Shadow they're on their way to the Ark. Shadow stumbles upon a hidden emerald of Eggman's and steals it with ease, which is fine by him. When he steals the emerald, however, an alarm goes off, which triggers a memory for Shadow. A cool thing to note about that cutscene, that's the same room which SA2 ended in during the credits. But anyway, the next stage is Lost Impact, which is a counterpart to the Doom. It's another flashback on the Ark. Once you beat the level, you get to play out this iconic scene from SA2 that started it all for Shadow. He always remembered being in this room with Maria when she dumped him into outer space, telling him everything depends on him. Next, we find Sonic and Shadow running along the Ark and notice a black comet passing. Shadow feels some kind of connection with the black comet. We know that he's a part of Black Doom, and that the Black Comet is the Black Creature's mothership, so it makes sense that he has some kind of tingling in his head. Shadow and Sonic make it to the Black Comet and begin the final haunt. The mission is to find Black Doom, which basically just entails making it to the goal ring. And once you make it to the end of the stage, you confront Black Doom.
You've done well, Shadow. I'm very impressed you made it this far.
Black Doom, your rule ends here, and it ends now!
So you're behind all this. Like it or not, the game's over.
Fools. The Black Arms are more than superior. We are perfect. Do you really think you have any real chance of defeating us?
It's you who should be scared, Black Doom. I made a promise to Maria to save the planet she loved so much, and I will!
Then get ready to die. Let me show you the ultimate power in the universe.
Once again, it's a repeated fight, yada yada yada. Let's play the final cutscene of the Pure Hero story.
Chaos Emeralds.
Shadow. This isn't over yet. The Black Arms will rise again.
Let's do this! I'm Shadow the Hedgehog, and I made a promise that I intend to keep. With the power of these emeralds, Black Doom and his army are finished! This is who I am!
Most people would assume this is the canon path in this game. I believed it was too for a long time. But there is a slight problem with the end of this path that I don't think many people discuss. One detail that I think was overlooked by many. In the Pure Hero path, Shadow regains his memory of what happened in SA2. Something which we'll shortly find out is not canon. And not only alters the course of Shadow's demeanor in future games, but also alters the real world's opinion of the final ending of this game because I think far too many people miss that important detail.
It's like I said, I am the ultimate life form.
As is tradition by this point, the last story is unlocked and closes out the story and provides all of the context we're missing.
All of it.
Well done, Shadow. Our ritual can now commence as planned. Give me the Chaos Emeralds.
Shadow! Huh? Shadow, give me the Chaos Emeralds!
Do not give the emeralds to Black Doom, Shadow.
They're planning to destroy the planet.
Ignorant fools. We're here to save the humans from their own demise. We offer salvation.
What?
Their greed, thirst for power, and affinity for betrayal has them on a path of self-destruction. The Professor was in development of the ultimate life force, but he needed my help. So we made a deal. I helped him, and he promised to deliver me the 7 Chaos Emeralds. That's how you were created, Shadow. You would help us do both. A moment, total paralysis will hit your nervous system. The end is near now.
I will avenge those whose blood has...
Did
I gave you life, Shadow.
That's why you were created.
Please help me, Shadow.
Shadow the Hedgehog. I've left the past behind me. No one can tell me what to do now. I will destroy you, Black Doom!
The Last Way is a mishmash of Black Comet and Final Haunt, with a caveat that in order to advance through certain areas, you have to defeat enough enemies and use Chaos Control to get to the next section. And the next cutscene plays.
Shadow, you've gone farther than I expected. I'm impressed. Oh, you were created from my blood.
What?
That's right. You are a part of me. Do you feel that? I can control you.
SBO? Are you in yet?
Quiet, Charmy! SBO, we need you to focus, because if we don't hurry, all the data we recovered will be lost!
Easier said than done. Who signed me up for this anyway?
That's it! I'll do it! Get out of the way!
Get back here, you idiot! Hey! It's working!
Shadow, my son!
Professor?
What is this?
If you're listening to this, then the worst has happened. You need to know the truth. The government plans to shut down this research facility. The government plans to cease all of our research and imprison all who know about you. I made a terrible mistake, Shadow. It's all my fault. Making contact with that comet.
Professor Gerald?
Now listen very carefully. Years the Black Comet will return. They plan to harness its powers to destroy this planet. The only way to stop them was to develop a way to use the very power they intended to use against them.
That's it! It's brilliant!
Shadow, it's up to you, and only you can stop them. I developed the Eclipse Cannon. It's the only weapon that can destroy that Black Comet. Shadow, you are the only hope to save mankind as we know it. The future of this planet depends on you.
Don't worry, Grandfather. Shadow and I will protect this planet. Right, Shadow?
Gerald, you fool. Shadow is already in my control. What's this? Well. Seems like you're immune to my mind control.
And just like that, we have our context. Shadow was created to save the world. Gerald made the Eclipse Cannon to destroy the Black Comet, not as vengeance against the humans like we concluded in SA2. Shadow was always meant to be a hero, and now we know that for sure. The final fight for this one is pretty different than the other ones in the game. Also, it's epic as heck. Shadow's music runs in the background. It's great. 9 minutes into the fight, Eggman admits to Shadow that he wasn't an android, but honestly, it should have been obvious by now. Eggman found Shadow after SA2 and made a bunch of android copies of him before he rose. This is the real Shadow, and as such, he defeats Black Doom, and saves the world, yet again.
Only one thing left to do. Put the past behind me. Chaos Control!
By the end of the Shadow game, we have a hedgehog that knows who he is, but he doesn't actually know who he is. He just knows it to the extent of all that he's learned as he uncovers more and more secrets. In the canon story of Shadow the Hedgehog, he ultimately never remembers anything that occurred prior to his fall to the Earth at the end of SA2, but he accepts that. He comes to terms with it. He sees himself as not necessarily a hero, but a moral figure. One that has closure and is no longer obsessed with what Maria was to him, and why she had to die the way she did. He won't be manipulated. He's going to do what he thinks is right, and be close to those that he cherishes. And since his memory starts from heroes, that's primarily Team Dark. Which is why in the start of Sonic 06, he is seen working for Gun. He's there with Rouge. My god, I love this. When the cutscene finishes, you immediately get thrown into White Acropolis. As the stage ends, you learn that Shadow is working with Gun. He's working for Gun along with Rouge and gets assigned missions to try and help make the world a better place. He's also very direct and mission oriented, which I think is a great observation of his personality. He doesn't care why, he's all about accomplishing the mission he's given. After White Acropolis, you fight the Egg Cerebrus. With the defeat of the Cerebrus, Shadow and Rouge enter Eggman's base and find that he's been researching Soliana and Princess Elise. And we learn that Rouge's orders were to retrieve the mysterious scepter she's holding. So she asks Shadow to escort her to a rendezvous point for Gun. Shadow obliges, and the game takes us to the Soliana hub world, where Shadow and Rouge need to head towards Kingdom Valley. Upon completion of the stage, Shadow and Rouge find none other than Eggman waiting for them at the rendezvous point, as he fills in information to them about the Solaris Project, which was a project named after their sun god.
It's been a while, my dear Rouge. And of course, Shadow. Now, if you'd be so kind as to hand back the Scepter of Darkness you took from me.
After a quick altercation leads to Shadow saving Rouge at the expense of the scepter breaking and Eggman freaking out and retreating, we're left with a mysterious black shadow. Like a literal shadow. Flying out of the scepter haphazardly, swinging around the area. When it lands directly in front of Shadow the Hedgehog, and it manipulates Shadow, creating a thick ball of smoke. And out pops none other than the same mysterious black hedgehog that existed in Silver's timeline and told him that Sonic was the Iblis Trigger. His introduction in Shadow's story is frickin' spectacular. After Rouge points out that he looks like Shadow, the mysterious hedgehog has a laugh and hints at how ironic it is that he was awakened by Shadow the Hedgehog. He introduces himself as Mephiles the Dark. He speaks without his lips moving. He bows his head and zombie walks over to Shadow. There's a great bit of high-pitched piano tunes, a freaky close-up to his green eyes. It literally feels like it's coming straight out of a horror flick, and I'm all for it. He asks Shadow why he's forgotten him, which causes more questions for us as the player and really makes this guy seem all the more interesting considering he was the one that told Silver to attack Sonic like 200 years in the future. He returns his favor to Shadow, a one-way ticket to oblivion, and then sends him and Rouge 200 years into the future. Now, a quick sidestep. The name Mephiles has been said to come from Mephistopheles, which many people like to incorrectly claim is the devil. Mephistopheles is not the devil. He's an agent that works for the devil. I feel like it was just said by an early YouTuber and everyone just quickly echoed it in their videos. In every Sonic 06 video I've ever watched, people just say, yeah, Mephistopheles was the devil. It's funny because nobody ever mentions that Iblis is literally the devil. I'm getting ahead of myself here, but Iblis and Mephiles are the two main bad guys in this game. Iblis is the devil. Mephistopheles, or Mephiles, works for the devil. In Faust legend, Mephistopheles searches to serve and ultimately collect the souls of those who are already damned. Meaning he's not there to corrupt, he's there to guide those who are already corrupted towards the devil, which we established is Iblis. Are you guys seeing the connection yet? Mephiles believes Shadow is a damned and corrupt individual, and I'll circle back to this point later. Shadow and Rouge enter a nearby base and discover they're actually in Eggman's base, but approximately 200 years in the future. Shadow notes that Mephiles' power to control time felt very similar to Chaos Control, but before they can continue that thought, they hear a noise and soon discover Sonic, Tails, and Knuckle, who just made it to the future. The five of them look around at the destroyed landscape, and Shadow and Rouge fill them in that they're in the future, causing them to realize that Eggman's machine can control time. They determine that in order to get back, they need to use Chaos Control, but they need more power, which basically means they each need to find an emerald. The cutscene ends. Whether you're doing Sonic or Shadow's playthrough, you start Crisis City. But when you finish the stage with Shadow, you not only find a Chaos Emerald, you also find an old and beat up version of Omega. Shadow legitimately does not want to leave him behind. This is the Team Dark reunion. This is Shadow's friend. So far, during Shadow's story, he saved Rouge twice, including one time allowing the Scepter of Darkness to break in order to prioritize saving her. He doesn't want to leave Omega behind, but Rouge tells him there's essentially nothing they can do and he reluctantly agrees. It's easy to see how much this trio means to one another, and it's with these subtle moments of Shadow's inclination to save his friends does it really show. When you finish Crisis City with Sonic, him and Tails and Knuckles find an open door where they see Mephiles talking to Silver and Blaze. It's the same cutscene that occurred at the beginning of Silver's story where he discovers the Iblis trigger and they all go back in time. When Silver and Co. go back in time, Sonic Team made their way to the computer and discovered that back at the present time, Elise died when she was kidnapped by Eggman, so they need to urgently find an emerald to go back in time and save her. Sonic Team then catches up to Rouge and Shadow just after they finish Crisis City stage, except in their case they actually managed to find an emerald. I love this little exchange here where Rouge throws shade at Knuckles, implying that she's a real treasure hunter and he isn't. It's a good bit of banter and a fun callback to their rivalry in SA2. The next stage is Flame Core, and I believe this is completely identical regardless of whether you're playing Sonic or Shadow's story. The five of them found a second Chaos Emerald, and just as they were ready to grab it, a smaller form of Iblis appears. After Iblis is defeated, the cast gets a hold of the second Chaos Emerald, and Shadow and Sonic pull a dual Chaos Control, which opens a time portal to go back to the present day. Since they learned that Mephiles is basically using a more powerful version of Chaos Control to time travel, so they figured they'd give it a try. I don't think it's all that far-fetched, but I also don't think it was far-fetched that Sonic used Chaos Control back in SA2. The Emeralds are mysterious, and it's entirely plausible that these characters learn more secrets about them as time goes on. Sonic Team and Rouge jump through the portal, but Shadow sees Mephiles form out of a black ball of smoke, so he decides to stay behind. When Rouge returned to the present, she noticed the Chaos Emerald Shadow used in conjunction with Sonic to perform Chaos Control made its way to the present despite Shadow staying behind in the future. She's immediately greeted with communication from Gun asking her if she retrieved the Book of Darkness, even though they meant Scepter of Darkness, but hey, at least they got the subtitles right. She tells him she'll give them a status update shortly, but needs immediate contact with E123 Omega, and she clearly has something on her mind that has to do with the fact that she saw a version of him in Standby in the future. Rouge confronts Omega, and they have a bit of back and forth and catch up on the situation at hand. She gives him the Chaos Emerald and tells him to give it to Shadow, which he obliges. Meanwhile, Shadow is back in the future facing off against Mephiles.
So, decided to void your return ticket now, did you?
Why are you here? Did you ruin this world?
The answer is yes and no. Perhaps it's better to show you. Yes, that's you. After the world was devastated by Iblis's flames, what do you think happened? A search for the guilty,
Who did this, you may ask? Humanity wasn't just jealous of your power. They feared it. They used this incident as an excuse to hunt you down. Come with me, Shadow. Let us punish this foolish world of humanity. It's only fair to give back what was intended for you. You have every right to want justice.
That's absurd. Whatever it is you want to do, you can do it alone.
You forgive humanity this folly, then?
I determine my own destiny.
Man, it's such a sick cutscene, and it really lends itself well to what I was speaking about earlier regarding Mephistopheles of the Faust legend. He's sent by the devil, Iblis, to gather the corrupt, Shadow. Except Shadow isn't corrupt. Shadow is a hero. We've all known he was a hero. There is assuredness in his decision. You can't simply trick him into joining your cause because he's not a villain, nor is he even an anti-hero. I love how the first line during his fight with Mephiles, he immediately says, "Don't bother to try and deceive me, I know who I am." A great callback to the game Shadow the Hedgehog. And a fitting declaration to make sure everyone's on board with who and what Shadow is. And then a few extra attacks on Mephiles will defeat him. Or at least you think he's defeated, except he pushes Shadow away and is suddenly saved by none other than Omega. As soon as the fight begins, Omega straight up tells Shadow Rouge asked him to support him. Which brings us full circle and we understand why Omega has spent 200 freaking years on standby waiting for this moment. Like, what? I love Team Dark. Okay, let's ignore all the time travel implications going on in this story because, well, it's a time travel plot, so there's always a crap ton of plot holes and it's not limited to this game. But the concept that this robot sat tightly and waited this whole time because he trusted his friend Rouge that he'd have to one day help his other friend, Shadow, is so awesome and endearing. Like, I love Team Dark. With the defeat of Mephiles, he creates a portal and disappears and Shadow and Omega jump in and follow. The latter two end up in the present in Soliana and decide they need to pursue Mephiles. They travel through the hub world to find Rouge hanging out by the warehouse. Rouge comments that Eggman's machines are looking for Shadow, but Shadow says they must be looking for Mephiles. Shadow tells Rouge and Omega to continue their search for Mephiles because he's going to head towards Eggman and figure out exactly what he wants with Mephiles.
Wouldn't the door have been easier? So, what do you want now?
Who is Mephiles, and why are you trying to capture him?
If you want to know, you should go find him yourself. But here's a hint. It's all linked to the Soliana disaster 10 years ago.
The Solaris Project.
Indeed. When you capture Mephiles, you must bring him to me. Then I'll tell you the truth about Solaris.
Okay, so the more this game continued, the more I enjoyed Eggman's performance. I actually don't know what the consensus is on his character in Sonic 06, but I gotta imagine it's one of the things that's praised. I know his looks are scoffed at, but outside of that, I don't know why people would even criticize him, if they are at all. Anyway, we're all caught up with everyone, and we're ready for Shadow and Silver to face off.
Chaos Control! You! Don't bother. With the Chaos Emerald's power, I control time and space. You can't break free.
I won't give up! It all depends on me! Can't lose! Not when I'm so close! Chaos Control!
There's a few things to dissect here. First of all, Silver has used Chaos Control. I think he literally just learned it on the spot by watching Shadow use it. He didn't know what an emerald was before Blaze told him, so it seems to me he was thinking on his toes to counter the advantage that Shadow has on him. In which case, kudos to him for attempting it at all by reading the situation. I think it's a good sign of Silver's ability to adapt in a tough situation given his backstory. Second thing of note, the way Shadow reacts when Silver uses Chaos Control looks to me like someone that is both shocked and potentially has gained a bit of respect for his adversary. I mean, you probably have to have a certain level of strength to use Chaos Control, otherwise everyone that gets a hold of the emerald can use it. It's the same respect that Shadow garnered for Sonic in SA2. While most people like to meme Silver and the scene because Shadow's roundhouse kick on Silver, I think it's a good first interaction between 2/3 of our main cast. And as the conversation continues, it gets better. Shadow sees in front of him another hero that seems to be misguided. He might see a bit of himself in there, a young naive hedgehog that was tricked or manipulated by someone with power. He immediately recognizes it and has Silver join his side, telling him they need to go through the portal and run 10 years into the past to figure out what exactly the situation is with Mephiles. He hits him with a "come with me if you want to live" moment and jumps through the portal.
An electromagnetic pulse has just been generated, injecting a decompression agent. No, the level's not dropping. A spatial meltdown is inevitable. My lord, it's too late. We've got to take shelter.
Why so loud? Why do you refuse to listen to my voice? Father! Elise!
So it seems like the King of Soliana was attempting to manipulate the Flame of Solaris somehow and the experiment failed. When Shadow and Silver come to the scene, they see Solaris split off into two. The raw power of the flame, Iblis, and the dark and cunning brain, Mephiles. The two parts of Solaris, the Faust legend of the destructive devil, and his agent, Mephistopheles. Shadow immediately says he's going after Mephiles, and Silver heads towards Iblis. But the king quickly stops Shadow and tells him to take the Scepter of Darkness to seal Mephiles.
Who are you?
I'm Shadow the Hedgehog.
Shadow, your face, your form, I will remember. Your death, certain. You will die.
And we now understand why, when the scepter breaks in the future, Mephiles comes out recognizing Shadow and takes his form even. Silver leaves Elise. Shadow leaves the scepter, the two vessels that are containing the parts of Solaris. Silver glances over at Elise in a sympathetic manner. The two hedgehogs create a portal and head back to the present. Our two hedgehogs split off. When he returns from the past, he lands near Rouge, who tells him Omega is in pursuit of Mephiles. He asks Rouge to find out what the materials the Scepter of Darkness is made of, because he knows how to seal Mephiles now. From a gameplay standpoint, this puts Shadow in a town mission that requires him to defeat a bunch of enemies attacking an archaeologist. I guess she gives some hints here on where it can be found, and Shadow figured out he has to light the candles around this statue, which causes the scepter to appear and allow Shadow to go on and seal Mephiles. So we head to Wave Ocean to meet up with Omega since he's searching for Mephiles there.
This only proves you were created to stop Shadow, the ultimate life form. Don't tell me you didn't know. You may have been programmed by humanity, but what you did to Shadow in the future, that was your...
Alright, so first off, Omega being created to stop Shadow is a nice callback to his initial introduction guarding Shadow in Sonic Heroes. He's a failsafe created by Eggman to stop Shadow. And of course, much to Eggman's chagrin, he can't control Omega. Second of all, Mephiles is taking a beating of bullets by Omega and further cements how much I love the way his creepiness steals a scene every time he's involved. And third, Omega's the one that caged Shadow up in the future? What?
What just happened?
Shadow. The one that defeats and seals you in the future is me.
Omega coming clean with Shadow shows how much he cares for him. He feels guilt about what transpired in the future and wants to come clean, and I think it's a nice touch considering he's a robot. Shadow's reaction to the news genuinely looks like he's heartbroken because he cares for Omega like a friend. He's been through so much with him that this news is devastating to some extent. I'm not sure why they gloss over exactly what occurred in the future that caused him to capture Shadow, but I feel like the writers are intentionally leaving it up to our imagination. Rouge says,
It's so unfair. Shadow's always here to defend the world. Despite that,
eventually, when something or someone is seen as too powerful, it is seen as a threat. And then the world becomes its enemy.
Which leads me to believe that with everyone in the world terrified, they all turned against Shadow. And depending on how much they turned against him, it might have led to Shadow retaliating to defend himself. He might have accidentally gone too far and caused some collateral damage that ultimately led to Omega taking the liberty to stop his friend before he conducts even more damage. I can see a scenario playing out that would satisfy the story. And I'm kind of glad that they didn't go into detail because they probably would have done something worse. Like saying he was pushed so hard that he ended up turning against the world and becoming evil. Which honestly would totally go against everything we know about Shadow up to this point. Regardless, Rouge closes out the scene with this gem.
Shadow? Even if you believe everyone in the world will be against you, know that I'll always remain by your side. Remember that.
I will.
Mephiles appears to have headed for those ruins. He's probably looking for the Chaos Emerald that's supposed to be there.
There's no doubt in my mind. His movement shows he's seeking any Chaos Emerald he can find. Supposedly, he needs one in order to join with Iblis again.
I will seal him before that.
Mephiles!
I was expecting you sooner. As you must know, you're already too late. But there's still time for you to change your mind. Join me, Shadow. Let us teach this world a lesson and rewrite the future.
Don't try to deceive me.
What?
You have no desire for revenge. You only crave destruction. Your only lust is to fuel Iblis until there is nothing left of time itself.
It's a pity, Shadow the Hedgehog. Truly a shame that you wish to go against me. absorbed your power through your shadow in the past. What may have worked 10 years ago no longer does. Must realize now that you cannot hope to stop me with your limited power.
So you say?
It's futile. The world will betray you. Why fight at all? Why risk your life for those who will persecute you later?
If the world chooses to become my enemy, I will fight like I always have.
I wish this was the end of the game. It would have been a perfect ending in my eyes. Sonic is killed, like legitimately dead. Mephiles apparently wasn't defeated by Shadow. Maybe he was, but this is a different version of him? I don't know. Elise cries, and that releases Iblis from inside of her in a larvae state that allows Mephiles to merge with him. Yeah, shut up, that's my headcanon as to why they needed this version of Iblis specifically. Mephiles somehow teleports the emeralds towards him and merges with Iblis and becomes Solaris, which creates some kind of distortion that brought all of our protagonists together, prompting everyone a chance to see a literally dead Sonic and react pretty accurately to how you'd expect them to be honest. We started with 9 characters. Blaze and Sonic are dead, so we have 7 remainings. We need to now gather the 7 Dragon Balls and wish Sonic back to life because apparently Elise can smell his essence in the wind that he's still somewhat alive or something. Also, apparently her ability to seal Iblis means she's able to revive him with the emeralds. Which not only brings him back to life, but brings him back to life as Super Sonic? Yeah, this is where the story lost me. But then something happened and the game pulled me right back in. I thought the final boss fight was a bit basic, but I appreciated that each hedgehog has a responsibility in the fight and he needs to use all 3 of them at one point or another to weaken Solaris. And with that, we reach our end.
Did you destroy it?
No. That is the true Solaris.
Look, Elise. This is Solaris, the flame of hope.
It's so beautiful.
When the flame has grown large enough, our world will change. Solaris will allow us to control time and move through history. People will be able to rectify past mistakes and avoid bitter fate.
Will we be able to see Mama?
Yes, Elise. We'll both be able to see your mother once again.
This is where everything began. Who knew such a tiny flame could bring such devastation? If we put out this flame, Solaris will never exist. And then we'll never have to worry about the flames of disaster, right? But our encounter... You and I will never meet. It will never have happened.
Elise, just smile.
At the end of Sonic 06, he not only knows who he is, not only has closure on all the conflicts that he's endured throughout his life, and no longer allows himself to be shackled by them, but he's also comfortably, undeniably, a hero. And then there's a weird 15 or so years of edgy stuff where his character is written like he's Draco Malfoy mixed with Team 4-star Season 1 Vegeta. But we'll just pretend those don't exist, because at the time, Sega wanted to pretend Shadow didn't exist at all. Is that enough background for you all? No? Okay, good, because now we have to quickly run through the animated beginning stuff because the short 15-minute long series leads straight into the start of Shadow Generations. At the start of this, might I say, phenomenally crafted animation, we have yet another flashback of Shadow and Maria running through the arc, only this time, it's much more personable. It's an excited Maria leading the Black Hedgehog to the main room in the arc that we know all too well so they can get a view of the beautiful Aurora Borealis. It's a jovial Maria, and well, a Shadow acting like Shadow. Maria eventually overexerts herself in excitement and almost passes out, prompting Shadow a chance to show us the way he cares for her due to her illness. She's a kid, she loves the beauty of the earth, and she can't wait to return there. But Shadow doesn't share that same sentiment. He's the ultimate life form, not from Earth, and is supposed to be the key to all manner of medicines. He's clearly frustrated in his inability to help Maria, and you can see that effect it has on him. And just as Maria begins to embrace Shadow and thank him for being there for her, the dreaded attack on the arc begins. Maria grabs hold of Shadow's hand and there's a strange distortion, which is the first indication that these might not necessarily be live events occurring in front of our eyes. Shadow takes off, leaving Maria to fight the invader of the arc, Emerald the Gizoid. Yeah, that's a story for another time. Emerald is holding Gerald Robotnik and seemingly ready to end him. Next, you get an epic fight scene, which comes to a quick halt when another weird distortion occurs and reality shatters like a glass window. Shadow knows this isn't right. He begins to remember, things are starting to come back to him. The soldiers on the ark, the evidence destroyed. But it's too soon, it's happening too quickly. A strange phenomenon occurs and we find Shadow in Gerald's infamous prison cell right before he's ended by the firing squad, and more strange distortions occur as Shadow skates his way through a dark hallway and comes out in a weird reality that I can only describe as Marvel Cinematic's interpretation of what it's like to be between dimensions. And of course, his final sight is a silhouette of Maria being killed by the firing squad, before he suddenly comes through at the present day, standing on the edge of a cliff with a yellow Chaos Emerald in hand, wondering what just got a hold of his psyche. Oh, and the moon is blown up now. For the first time since SA2, I think. Cool. Shadow realizes this weird memory was all triggered as he views the arc. He questions if he could have survived. He, of course, meaning Black Doom. And for the first time, in a very long time, Shadow needs answers to things he might remember. It's very sad, but it's very fitting. He found closure, he moved on, he figured out who he was, but all of that is accomplished because he ultimately couldn't remember anything. In many ways, his entire character arc was how to move on from a past that he could not remember. So what happens when he starts to remember? When the events begin to be a bit more clear again? Well, it's not like Shadow to simply stand idly by. And as he skates off into the horizon, the moon is once again in one piece. Which I'm not sure is the show's way of screwing with Shadow's headcanon or ours. More memories start to uncover for Shadow, primarily of the commander with discolored eyes, who was apparently named Abe, and a cute little black creature larva sitting in a capsule like he's someone's science project. Shadow finds it despicable, and he reflects on his creation since he shares DNA with this abomination. Of course, the perfect Maria is there to reassure him that he's a caring being and what he does is what defines him, not how he's made. And the sweet memory is cut off with Shadow sneaking into Robotnik's base out in the desert. The same desert base from Sonic Adventure 2. Yay nostalgia. Where he encounters Rouge, who is gathering intel for Gun along with Omega. Shadow notifies Rouge that he's looking for a ship to reach the Ark because he believes Black Doom has returned. The trio work together to take down Eggman's robots. Yay nostalgia. Rouge then offers Shadow a ship, but only if he shows up to Sonic's birthday party later, which of course is how they're tying all of this into Generations. Yeah, I know that's kind of lame as hell, but the only story beat anyone remembers from Sonic Generations was Sonic's birthday. Rouge is seemingly giving Shadow a recap of his creation as they move up in the elevator. I can only imagine that minor scene was included because for over 20 years, everyone has been whining about Rouge not filling Shadow in on the details of his creation, and they didn't want the same thing to happen after Shadow's Generations, so they took care of the plot point so nobody whines about it online later. There's another cool fight scene, this time against Gun, but it's apparently nothing personal and really just a way to watch Omega be absolutely awesome. Shadow too, very cool stuff, but ultimately not relevant to the greater plot, despite how cool the use of Chaos Control was and how he saved the Gun soldier's life. Shadow, aboard his spaceship, begins to blast off. Gun defense systems are there to stop him. There's a sense of concern until Commander Abe chimes in and calls everything off and allows Shadow to go free, asking Rouge why Shadow wouldn't just simply ask him if he could use the ship, to which she wittingly replies, "When has Shadow ever asked for permission?" And when the Gun commander tells Rouge she could have talked him down, the duo acknowledges that the only person that could have ever done that was Maria. And I love this final scene, so I'm just gonna let it play out for you all.
That life was taken from me long ago. I need to focus on the mission at hand. A threat lurks aboard the Ark, and I must eliminate it.
And here we get to the start of our newest Shadow adventure, where it all began for our favorite Black Hedgehog. We get to see the actual first moments of Shadow's life after Gerald created him along with Maria. And then we quickly transition to our protagonist aboard the Ark, in that very same room, continuing on from the exact moment the Dark Beginnings animation ended. Rouge then calls Shadow from her attendance at Sonic's birthday party to check in on him. It's fitting that Sonic and friends are in a bright and happy environment while Shadow is inspecting biosignatures in the Dark Ark. Their conversation is interrupted when Shadow notices a distortion at the end of the hallway, and beelines straight into it. The first stage is a modern rendition of the Space Colony Ark. A few minutes into the stage, you'll run into a familiar face, or I guess, a familiar eye. Doom's eye causes reality to distort around Shadow and flings him through buildings and cities in another ripped out of MCU segment before dropping him down into somewhat of an homage to Radical Highway. What awaits Shadow is a yellow Chaos Emerald, just sitting there alone ready for him to take it like it's a baby's candy. But it might as well actually be candy because this is the very same fake Chaos Emerald that Tails made in Sonic Adventure 2. Hooray for more pandering. But before Shadow can drop another line to swoon a millennial with nostalgia, we're interrupted by the ultimate bus-killing final boss, Time Eater. He does what he did to everyone at the start of Sonic Generations and transfers Shadow into the White Void. This is a mini open world, and the goal is to make it to the weird Doom's Eye vessel at the top that seems to be inspired by the Black Comet. I think it's known as the Black Moon, but I will most certainly refer to it as the Black Comet, whether intentional or otherwise. Shadow gets a Doom ability that causes him to sprout some wings and glide through the challenges in the stage. It looks cool as heck, very demonic, and is the first sign of some sort of dark power creeping into the Black Hedgehog. Almost like the way the dark side of the Force sneaks into a Force user in Star Wars. When the stage finishes, Shadow is wondering what that strange power was, noting that he shouldn't be able to do it despite the fact that it felt natural. And as he stares off into the distance, he sees a ghost of his past. The person that has lived on in his mind, body, and soul, and hidden away into the darkest reach of his emotions. Maria. and Maria seems to see Shadow too. But as she runs towards him, Gerald Robotnik asks her to wait, seemingly knowing something is clearly wrong with the space they're in. And as they disappear into the fog, Shadow is now convinced it was nothing more than a hallucination. He remembers the last time he saw her. He remembers when she sent him towards the Earth. He can't allow these hallucinations and memories to cloud his judgment. There's a task at hand, and as another act is completed, more of the void becomes uncovered, and this allows Shadow to take his newest MacGuffin to a sealing device, which gives Shadow the Spears attack. But anyway, Rail Canyon. You eventually hit another distorted mini cutscene and once again fall into not quite Radical Highway and chase Doom's Eye through more funky spectacles. The stage is complete, Shadow gets a MacGuffin, and the Black Comet opens another eye and Rail Canyon's 2D stage is unlocked. The next sealing chamber will give Shadow Doom Blast, which allows you to launch a specific black creature from Doom's army across the map and teleport to the area it lands. With the keys from Space Colony Arc and Rail Canyon on your side, you can make your way back towards the boss gate and face off against a prototype of the Ultimate Lifeform. This is so cool. Of course this is the chosen boss fight because the Bio-Lizard was the fight where Shadow made his turn. It was when he decided he wasn't a faker, and he was indeed what Maria wanted. It was the first conflict he needed to overcome when he regained his memory in Sonic Adventure 2. So naturally, as an impactful moment of his past, this is the first boss fight given to him. With the Bio-Lizard defeated, the hub world expands and Shadow is confronted by Black Doom.
You have made excellent progress. I would expect nothing less from my finest creation.
Finest creation? Black Doom. I destroyed you once. I will do it again.
You defeated us, but the Black Arms live on. And this temporal anomaly has accelerated my plans to revive my forces and consume the world.
Show yourself. We'll finish this here and now.
You are not ready yet. We are not ready yet. Once you have been perfected, then we will have our reckoning.
As per usual, now we get our next Doom power, Doom Surf, which allows you to seamlessly traverse over water. You get to practice with it for a bit and then enter the next stage, Kingdom Valley from Sonic 06. And when that's all done, you can head straight into the next stage of Sunset Heights from Sonic Forces. I guess we're moving towards the future now. Anyway, Shadow was a brief, and I mean very brief DLC in Forces, and he did play a somewhat remixed version of Sunset Heights, even though this one is more based off of Sonic's stage. But I'm assuming if I'm Sonic Team and trying to fill a quota, then that counts. As per usual, the stage will distort, you'll get spit out into a full-on pipe like this is F-Zero, or I guess Sonic Lost World, slam Doom's eye again and complete Sunset Heights, causing the Black Comet to open another eye. As soon as that's done, Shadow, back in the White Void, notices Maria being chased by a group of black creatures. I really like this quick close-up on his eyes, watching them do a quick red glimmer. Again, showing that there's an innate dark force slowly being awakened in Shadow, and it primarily occurs when he sees Maria. Seeing her afraid is causing a rage to awaken. He quickly makes light work of the creatures. Eyes are basically flames at this point, and before he can even make sense of anything, Maria grabs onto him. His facial expression says it all. How long has it been since he lost Maria? What has he gone through to move forward from the tragedy that befell the Ark? Everything he's done to move on and establish himself as a functioning being as a result of the death of this very same girl that is now hugging him. This was sad as hell, and not least because deep down he knows this isn't his reality, his timeline. That's why he turns away from both Maria and Gerald, and speaks as if they're not around him. He quickly acknowledges that they must be from a point in time prior to the disaster aboard the Ark. And even when he says,
"Perhaps I can change their fate,"
he says it almost as if they're not behind him, because if he can't change their fate, he won't be able to accept that they were actually there within his reach. It's such a strong moment, and an amazing way to deliver everything about Shadow as a gift to the die-hard lifelong fans of his. Shadow asks the duo to find somewhere safe to hide, and we get to go through some challenges to climb the large building to the boss room, where it'll awaken all the key portals spread throughout the hub world. And the next boss fight unlocked is the Metal Overlord. And as soon as the fight begins, Metal Overlord taunts Shadow by referring to itself as the ultimate life form, prompting Shadow to reply, "Life form, doom." Anyway, similar to the Bio-Lizard, the Metal Overlord also has a bit of a connection to Shadow, since Metal Sonic was effectively the creation Eggman used prior to Shadow to rival Sonic. In an alternate reality, had Shadow not flipped, he could have easily fallen on the same path of pure evil and would have been defeated and remembered as a monster in the same way that we remember Metal Sonic. But that's not how our Gloomy Hedgehog story went, so one long and fairly challenging with multiple phases surfing boss fight later, we find ourselves able to continue on with the adventure. Another eye opened, more overworld unlocked, Shadow approaches Maria and Gerald again. And Gerald begins to give some context about his use of Black Doom in the creation of Shadow, indicating that it must be time for him to pay for his sins, which is what he believes is causing all of this. And we get a different angle of all the information regarding the Ark and Maria from Gerald, which we haven't really gotten before in the previous games.
Maria's illness couldn't be treated on Earth. I could better manage her condition on the Ark, even if her family didn't like the idea. I attempted to develop the ultimate life form as a means to find a cure for Maria. My own experiments reached their frustrating limits. So when that alien warlord reached out to me and offered the miracle of chaos control, I accepted it. Through his DNA, the ultimate life form was born.
We now understand that Shadow's internal struggle is literally him versus Black Doom for control of his own self. And then we unlock the Doom Morph. And you'll primarily get to experience with it in the next stage of Chaos Island, which is very clearly only included because this is Sonic Cross Shadow generations and they need a representation for all of the mainline games in the franchise. With Chaos Island completed, the story quickly gets tied into Sonic Generations again. Honestly, anytime Sonic Generations story pops up, it's my least favorite part of the game because it reminds me of how terribly one-note the original Gen story was compared to Shadow's. Sonic needs the Yellow Chaos Emerald from Shadow, so we get this awesome cutscene that is meant to represent the original Sonic vs. Shadow fight from the end of Adventure 2, but it does such a good job conveying it that it might be time to start a petition to get Adventure 2 remade. Shadow almost uses his Doom power to defeat Sonic, and Rouge flies in out of nowhere and tells Shadow she noticed he held back. She wonders why he let Sonic run off with the Emerald since Shadow needs it, and Shadow tells her he let Sonic escape with Tails' fake yellow Emerald instead because Sonic Adventure 2 pandering. With that completed, we get to use Doom Morph to sneak into the basement of the mysterious building and traverse through the walls to find the boss gate and unlock the key gate portals so that we can fight the boss. I was kind of expecting a Titan fight from Sonic Frontiers, but what I got was a much more welcome surprise.
What is this? A seal of some sort?
Okay, so first off, this fight is excellent. I liked it in 06, I love it here. Second of all, yet again the boss fight is a reflection of Shadow. We have the prototype Ultimate Life Form, the prior rival to Sonic that worked for Eggman, and now we have the Agent of the Devil, whose appearance was literally modeled after Shadow trapped him in a Scepter of Darkness. And third of all, the Doom Morph and the jelly it travels through is such a good tie into Mephiles and the weird purple jelly aura that surrounds him, and I love that they not only tied in the Morph with his boss fight, but they also require you to travel to the basement in the overworld because this fight here looks like it takes place underground in an ancient structure.
There is no future for you. Ever.
With Mephiles defeated, the strange black comet in the sky has all of its weird eyes open. And Black Doom drops down and confronts Shadow, Maria, and Gerald.
Nigh upon us, Shadow. Soon you will be mine.
Shadow will never serve you. He's nothing like you.
Gerald may have given him this unassuming form, but the blood of the Black Arms flows in his veins. He is a warrior, a destroyer.
Yes, the warrior that will destroy you.
I have learned from our last encounter. There will be no mistakes this time. Struggle all you want. You will be mine.
Professor, what do you think he means he learned from our last encounter?
I surmise you defeated him at some point in the future. He has grown a new body and used the nebulous nature of time in white space to accelerate his plans for revenge.
He's right. No more mistakes. This time, I will crush every last one of them.
Shadow, no!
Maria?
It breaks my heart to see you so full of anger. This isn't who you are. Do you know why I named you Shadow? Because without light, there's only darkness. But a shadow will show you where to find the light. Do you understand? I don't want you to be driven by darkness. I want you to be happy. Stand in the light with peace in your heart.
There's a lot to unravel from that cutscene, but primarily I really appreciate the way Black Doom basically behaves and speaks the exact same way he did in Shadow Will 5. Almost as if his defeat in that game gave him the edge on Shadow. I also really appreciate that Gerald is able to follow along with the whole situation. Since their entrance into the White Void, he's been fairly calm and calculated, and has been able to follow along with the events, which is so fitting of the brilliant Doctor. And most importantly, I love that Shadow's internal conflict is highlighted by the dichotomy of Black Doom, who is basically the devil, and Maria, who I suppose represents light in the same manner of her namesake. The way the light glows over her as she holds Shadow and is able to completely calm him down really puts into perspective just how much Shadow has endured since his entrance into the series, and how insane he could have gotten with the loss of Maria. How evil he basically almost became due to that very loss. And most importantly, how he's effectively overcome that insanity and that primal urge, and he tamed it. And naturally, with both of these forces playing tug of war with his very being right in front of our eyes, Shadow is on the brink, and must once again prove his inner strength not only to Maria, but to himself. The next portal unlocks the Doomwing power we got a glimpse of early in the game, and now we have that power up at our disposal anytime we get 50 coins. But same as before, this power seems almost primal and devilish, whereas the super form almost feels angelic. The closest thing I can compare this to is Dark Spine Sonic from Secret Rings, where it's just such an awesome form driven by the dark and angry forces in our protagonists. This form triggers the Black Comet to erupt into the sky and release a pseudo stage where you're required to get through. It causes the White Void to turn all red and gives you your chance to practice your glide as you make your way towards Gerald and Maria.
Finally complete. Come, face me. I shall claim you, mind, body, and soul, and become the perfect being.
I'm sorry I put you on this path, Shadow, but I'm proud of how you have walked it. I believe in you, son.
Shadow!
It's all right, Maria. I'm letting go of that destructive anger. But I will continue to fight. Fight with your wish in my heart. Your wish for everyone to have a a chance to be happy.
God, I love Shadow the Hedgehog. And then you enter the Black Comet, and well, it isn't the Black Comet. They were teasing it all game and I didn't even realize it. Radical Highway is the final stage, and of course it is. It's the very first Shadow stage we ever got to play. And my God, I am so ready for them to pander to those of us that enjoyed almost everything from Adventure to Frontiers, and now especially this. Well, we didn't get a stage from Shadow's game, but we got a whole lot of Black Doom. And we get a fight against him that has multiple phases, allowing you to exercise pretty much every power-up and every maneuver you've ever made throughout the adventure. Keep in mind, Shadow was made partially by Black Doom, so that means that every boss fight in this game is some form of a reflection of Shadow, an alternate version of what he represents. And then, when you defeat Devil Doom, he evolves into Neo Devil Doom, and the fight just kicks it up that extra gear. It's a fitting spectacle, to a fitting climax, to a fitting game.
Deny what you are. We are one and the same.
I am Shadow the Hedgehog. This is the destiny I choose. Now, to end this!
Everything up till now, and yet you deny me! Shadow,
With the defeat of Devil Doom, the dark forces and urges within Shadow are eliminated, and the white void starts to dissipate, as Rouge comes in to once again tie in the two generation stories together. She's here to collect the real Yellow Chaos Emerald and take it to Sonic, so that they can defeat the Time Eater. But Shadow has his own conflict to resolve.
Shadow? I knew you could do it.
Maria.
I'm okay. Really.
Professor, what's happening?
Without Black Doom's influence, the time anomaly is beginning to heal. We are returning to our own point in time.
I'll stop Rouge. Use Chaos Control. Stop this moment in time.
Shadow? No. I don't want to be frozen in one place in time. Besides, your friends need your help.
But you don't know what's going to happen.
I know I'll see you again. And if fate draws us apart, I will always be in your heart.
Wait.